do not come to the Fitness Fix if you are looking to lose weight. And I made that the title for this podcast episode because, of course, yes, it's intended to get somebody's attention. But I'm also really serious when I say this because in the last 2 weeks alone, in connecting with our clients, hosting group coaching calls where I'm hearing from multiple clients at the same time, reading through our client check-ins, there is nothing that lights me up more than the client who tells me about things that actually have nothing to do with the scale.
Let's link up with Krysta on The Fix. She's a wellness coach with a focus on mental well-being and physical strength.
Hey there, Fix listeners. Welcome back to our latest episode of the Fix podcast. I'm your host, Krysta Huber, and I've got a little bit of a different feel for today's episode. Yes, it's another solo, just me, you, and whatever walk, movement you might be doing right now, listening in your car, on your commute, wherever you are. I hope you're having an amazing day. And I want to come on and just kind of give like a state of the union for the Fitness Fix. This is on my mind because it's June. We're halfway through the year. It's a great time of year to reflect. I've been talking about this over the course of the last 7+ episodes about all these different components that go into fat loss that have nothing to do with your calorie intake, that have nothing to do with just what's on your plate, but has everything to do with your mindset, your relationship with food, how you conduct your day, how you think about your schedule, the stories that you tell yourself. And while this is something that's been covered on this podcast in so many different ways, through so many different episodes, both solo episodes and with guests who either coach similarly to the way that we do or coach another element of what we provide inside of the Fitness Fix, this is something I've talked about, but I don't think in the 5 years that I've been podcasting, I've done like a check-in. And what I mean by a check-in is announcing a realignment of who we work with. And I think it's really easy to fall into this trap where you're the coach, you're the business owner. I know who I work with on a regular basis because I get the pleasure of supporting these women and interacting with all of you. But it's then kind of implied of like, oh yeah, this is who we work with when I share a story about a client or when I share a story about a conversation that I had with somebody in my DMs. And we've gone through a major shift over the course of these 5 years. And I've really started to notice this as two different things are going on. One, we've just changed up some of the offers that we have inside of our community. And I think that's important to share exactly what they are. But two, we are so fortunate to have clients that are with us for the long haul right now. And I should have looked this up before I hit record, but I'm pretty confident I can ballpark this number. I would say that more than 60% of the clients that we work with inside of the Fitness Fix have been with us for a minimum of 15 months right now. It could even be higher than that. I'd say like 80%. And I don't think I'd be exaggerating. And one of the reasons why I love that so much is because that is proof that we have evolved to originally being the company that worked with women who just really didn't know anything about macros and wanted to get started with that and wanted to have a better system, recognize that they've tried lots of different diets. And that language has always been a part of how I talk about who we support inside of the Fitness Fix, along with the fact that we've continued to brand ourselves as supporting women and some men who just feel like they're trying to do everything for everyone, being pulled in a million different directions, have a whole lot on your plate, your calendar's jam-packed, and you look to the next week and you're constantly making the joke of like, oh, just a few more days of this and then things will get better and things will slow down. And then they never actually slow down. I know if you've been listening to this podcast for a long time, I know that you are aware of those details. But what I've had a lot of time to reflect on recently is the fact that we now, as the Fitness Fix has evolved, our client has evolved because so many of the people we work with have matured along their fat loss journeys and have matured along their fitness journeys and through their relationship with food to the point where I will tell you, do not come to the Fitness Fix if you are looking to lose weight. And I made that the title for this podcast episode because, of course, yes, it's intended to get somebody's attention. But I'm also really serious when I say this because in the last 2 weeks alone, in connecting with our clients, hosting group coaching calls where I'm hearing from multiple clients at the same time, reading through our client check-ins, there is nothing that lights me up more than the client who tells me about things that actually have nothing to do with the scale. And as the coach, the fact that that lights me up, I know it's now reflected in the way we talk on this podcast, on social media, about how we see our approach and our protocols and the way we support people is reflected back in what our clients are excited about, what wins they're sharing with us on a weekly basis. And to give you an idea of what that actually looks like, in the last like 20 hours, as I've been thinking through this idea for this podcast episode, I've gotten messages from clients that a few here and there, of course, are celebrating the victories of a really awesome InBody scan. I have a client who's been with us now for well over a year and a half, and she's down over 5% body fat. Her muscle has increased like 6 pounds over the course of the last year-ish. And her weight has technically been maintained, but she looks better because her body fat percentage has dropped. And like, it's one of the most perfect scenarios for an InBody scan. Fat goes down, muscle goes up, and weight generally stays the same. Like, you literally cannot ask for a better scan. But then I also have the client who shared on social media that she was published a research that she had done with her coworkers in her physical therapy office. I have another client who celebrated shaving off like 12 minutes from the last time she did a HYROX event last June and just competed this past weekend. Those are all covering so many different aspects to the women that we are, that is so much bigger than the number on the scale. And I love that we've built this community, that we've created this. But what's more is I'm seeing this lived out through the fact that when we're asking our clients to tell us what's working this week and maybe what's not working this week, they're not coming to us and saying, hey, the number on the scale just isn't going down. They're coming to us looking to solve problems, in that, hey, I didn't get my shit together this past weekend. I know I need to this week. Here's what I'm committing to. So to that, I say this realignment is more of just reaffirming the fact that this is what the Fitness FYX stands for. And what the Fitness FYX stands for is supporting the type of people, and I'm going to break down the 2 exact types of people that we support best, who think they're coming to us to lose some body fat. And they may say that like it's 100% okay. I want to make this distinction clear, to come to me, send me a DM and say, hey, I want to lose 15 pounds. But what is not going to work is if you are not open to the idea that the fat loss is actually just a byproduct of you having a better relationship with yourself, you learning how to slow down, you learning how to build better habits, and you probably rewiring some old food rules that you have that may even contradict with some of the things that you're reading on social media, but is really just about you getting more in touch with you and the system that works exactly for your current life as it is. That doesn't mean I'm going to tell you don't have to change things, because if you keep doing what you've already always done, you're going to get what you've already gotten, right? But what it does mean is that you have to be open to the fact that sometimes this conversation isn't going to just be about calories. And when I think about the factors that might be frustrating people these days, when we think about things like GLP-1s and the comparison game that comes with that, I support clients who are on GLP-1s, and I'm happy to do that because I want them to have the right systems in place. But I also see how a lot of women are getting stuck inside their own heads because they're like, well, this person is doing this, and surely they're just like eating less food, and now look at all the results that they're getting. We don't have the rest of the context. We don't know how that woman internalizes stress. We don't know what type of relationship she's in with, personally, professionally, with family members, with friends, with a partner. We don't know how consistent or inconsistent her workout routine is. Like, we are living in a world where you look at social media and everyone's telling these stories about the one thing they did to achieve XYZ goal. Here's the problem. It's never one fucking thing. And I am at a point where I've done a few posts about this. It is making me annoyed at social media because it's this push and pull, like this tug between trying to simplify everything to get your attention or to recognize the fact that you only have 90 seconds to explain something to somebody. And really, you probably only have 10 just to keep them watching through the rest of your video or to keep them swiping through a post. But then, oh, by the way, you're also supposed to infuse this story piece to keep people captivated. And like, I'm all for that. But what we're missing in that is that we're convincing everyone still that there's an information problem. Oh, you just haven't tried the right thing yet. You just don't know about this thing yet. That's not it. So that's why something I firmly stand on inside of the Fitness FYX is we're not the people who are going to be your people if you're just looking to learn something new, unless that learning something new is you. And what I mean by that is you being open to getting more in touch with yourself to the point where what I would really say about the Fitness FYX and what we do and what makes us so different is we're not a weight loss program. We're not a fat loss program. What we actually are is a self-leadership program in disguise. Why? Because the clients who have the most success, the client that is down the 5% body fat, the client who messaged me last week and told me she was so proud of herself for being able to go to a barbecue and recognize that, yeah, she had access to like some brownies and other desserts, but she ate them and she thought they were good. But in the back of her mind, she was like, I'd really like to be at home right now because I have my routine of enjoying my yogurt and fruit bowl. And I actually look forward to that every night. Those are the people who are the ones that then, again, byproduct, are losing the 10 pounds, the 15 pounds. The people who are committing themselves to something like a HYROX event and pleasantly or showing up pleasantly surprised when they shave 10 plus minutes off. Those are the people that are actually seeing fat loss. It's not the person who like just needs to try that next thing. And I come on every week and talk about these things and try to break them down inside of this podcast as sort of my like anti-messaging around the quick fixes and the hacks and the fact that a lot of this I can't cover in just one single 30-second Instagram post, in just one single 90-second Instagram post. That's why I love podcasting, because it allows you to hear so much more of the stories from not just me, but other people, other people's experiences, you being able to relate back to them. And I think that's the beauty of just long form content in general. While this is not a podcast episode that is meant to be a remark on social media, I will say that that's relevant because what we have access to via social media, via Google, via being able to utilize AI now is changing the way that we think about information. And I think it's just becoming oh so apparent that having the information, not that this wasn't true already and clear already, having the information isn't enough, because if it was enough, you would have already gotten to where you wanted to go. And I've done versions of that podcast episode many times, but I want to go full send on this self-leadership concept around the Fitness FYX, because that's what works. Like if it was just about macros, you would have gotten the results you wanted the first time you attempted tracking your food for 12 weeks. And I say that, and here's my little story time as somebody who's been there. 7+ years ago, it'll be 9 at this rate, like 8.5 years ago, let's say, I started tracking my food. 12 weeks, worked with a coach in that time, dropped like 15 pounds. And it really did feel so easy because it was new and it was enlightening. And I was like, oh, I never thought about food like this before. And then I kind of went back to some old habits and behaviors. I wanted to loosen up because I was doing it in a very strict and structured way. So I gained a few pounds back. And then I went back to the coach again. I was like, all right, I need to lock back in. And I kept going through that cycle for like 2 years. And then what happened? Other major changes in my life happened. I switched jobs. I called off a wedding. I moved. We had a pandemic. But all that really is just summed up as life happened, and the system that I had created, I never learned how that system could be adapted to fit me as a person and how I was changing as a person. And that's where the Fitness FYX was born. But from there, the Fitness FYX has continued to evolve, because initially I loved, as a coach and as the creator of this entire brand, loved helping the person have the light bulb moment of like, oh, wow, I didn't know that food fit together this way once you understand the difference between protein, carbs, and fat. And we still do that. We still have the person who maybe you understand macros, you've tracked your food, but like you've never gone 150% in on it, or maybe you weren't taught in the way that we teach inside of the Fitness Fix, which is coming from this place of let's think about what we can add to your plate versus what you can take away from it. But it is pretty rare these days that we work with somebody who's never, ever tracked their food in their life. And honestly, you probably wouldn't be this deep into the podcast if you didn't at least have some sort of interest, relationship, or like dipping the toe in the water of tracking your food. So what we really teach and what I want to continue to emphasize, and if somebody's listening to this and you're like, well, what you talk all about nervous system and habit building or whatever, but what does that actually look like on a day-to-day basis inside of the Fitness Fix? That's what I'm trying to break down for you here. And what we're really teaching is the habit formation that sticks, that lasts, the nervous system regulation that you need to then create the consistency that everybody's already talking about that works, that you already fundamentally know that works. You don't need me to tell you that consistency is what you're missing. And there are absolutely probably 15 plus podcast episodes where all I would talk about is consistency. And now I feel like we're just at a stage where I know more from having more life experience, but a lot of that's come from the life experience of working with more clients and seeing what works and seeing what doesn't work. And also for myself, it's like, I know all the things about macros and I'm always learning new things too. I think something we could poke fun at right now is like everyone has kind of gone through the shift of saying, okay, all we've done is talk about protein. Now we need to start talking about fiber, as if fiber is like some new thing. We do need to pay attention to fiber. I could do a whole podcast episode on fiber, but the point is there's always going to be that next thing that's like, oh, here's this missing thing. Here's this other thing that you need. Here's that. And you don't need me as a coach to actually tell you that information. What you need me as a coach for is the real world strategies of like, hey, I want to have pizza on Friday night with my family, or I had a situation where I worked 3 hours later than I expected to. I had to get a project done and the ground turkey that I have in my fridge just doesn't sound that appealing right now. What can I do about that? Because as human to human, that's a scenario that I can fully empathize with for you and feel with you and say, hey, here's what I might recommend. And also acknowledge that that's not going to be perfect every single time. And as a result, where I think our sweet spot is best defined is this intersection between being outcome driven and wanting the outcomes, the byproduct of losing the weight, but also being process obsessed. And I don't mean obsessed in the fact that you need to track every last macro. I mean obsessed in the fact that we're creating the system that works for you to fit into your life and is something that you understand can ebb and flow and can be pulled like a lever or turned up and down like a dial. I could give you all the metaphors and analogies in the world for this one, but I think you get the point. And when I think about the fact that it's June and I look back and I think about in the last 5 years, the podcast episode that I typically record like just after Memorial Day or just heading into Memorial Day, I'm usually saying something about the fact that it's a good time for a reset. Like if you didn't reach your goals, I'm 99% sure that's the episode I did just last year, that June is the chance to just go for it. Like you don't need to throw in the towel. But now what I want to come on here and say is this. We're at a point in the Fitness Fix where I'd argue that the person whose success I'm willing to guarantee and bet on is the person who doesn't care if it's June, January, July, September, or October. You simply know that you want to feel like your best self. And you are aware of the fact that in the last weeks, months, maybe even years, maybe it was on, maybe it was off, maybe it was up, maybe it was down. You have had some situations, developed some behaviors, have been brushing up against some habits that you're not a huge fan of because you don't like how you physically feel or mentally feel. And as, again, a byproduct of that, maybe you don't like the number on the scale. Maybe you don't like walking into a dressing room and feeling like, hey, I used to be a different size. That size has gone up. I'd like to get back to a different one. That can be that pain point can be the driver of coming to the table and saying, I need support from a coach like Coach Krysta and like Coach Alyssa. But the person who we can help most effectively is the person who is going to be okay with recognizing that it's actually not about the changing of the sizes, the lowering of the number on the scale. It's about what influences that. And that is going to be those habits and behaviors you're brushing up against that you just know deep down aren't serving you. And you don't necessarily even need to tell me to tell you that. Like, you're already calling yourself out on that. And I'm the queen of that because there are plenty of things that I don't always practice what I preach. I've been in a season for the last 4+ months that I have been working very hard. And I feel that I always do work really hard, but to the point where I have absolutely not been the first person to go to bed at night. I have absolutely been very reactive with my food choices on given certain situations. Is it every day that I'm like, oh, I'm just going to throw the baby out with the bathwater? Absolutely not. But am I as consistent as I desire to be? Also, no. And it's the fact that I live that out on a regular basis that I feel actually makes me extremely qualified to coach the professional, the busy mom, the person who thrives off of doing and going and being, to the point where she has a tendency to do that at the expense of herself, and yet knows, like, deep down is a smart woman and doesn't even need me to say that to her, because she knows that she could operate at an even better capacity if she got to bed earlier, meal prepped the food, but gives herself maybe sometimes too much grace and be like, well, I accomplished XYZ over here, so I'm justifying that it's okay that I don't physically look my best. I want to support the woman because I desire to also be the woman who is not only crushing it in her career, is crushing it as a partner, as a parent, in all the different roles that we possess, but also feels physically good. You can look damn good too, but I want you to just feel physically good while doing it. And then having that as like your center and your compass and guide for yourself, that's going to turn into making decisions like meal prepping on Sundays, being conscious of limiting how many meals you eat out on a regular basis. It could look like reducing alcohol. I had this conversation with multiple entrepreneurs recently. I've gotten to a point where, like, I love a glass of wine just as much as the next person. Like, coming into the summer, I like to sit outside and enjoy the weather and think to myself, yeah, I'd like to have a glass of rosé. But I've also started to recognize that the impact of that one glass of wine, not so much what it does to the scale. 25-year-old me did not like how I would hold on to water weight, even though objectively I knew that was what was going on for 3 days. But 31-year-old me doesn't like the fact that when I wake up the next day, I don't feel nearly as sharp because I love my life and I love the work that I do and I love the people that I support and I love the things that I'm building. And I want to experience all of that at its fullest capacity, which requires me to be the best version of myself. And maybe alcohol doesn't do that, but love a delicious mocktail. So why not? And it's allowed me to have even more appreciation for spending time with my friends and recognizing that, like, the alcohol, like, it comes and goes, but those moments with your friends and saying yes to those things, that's what it's really all about. And it's being able to make the decision that works the best for you. And I appreciate and love the fact that we have created an environment inside of the Fitness FYX that can support the person who feels the way I described, but we can also support the person who's like, you know what, I want to have 2 glasses of wine every single weekend or 3. And it works. Like, I will show you how to make either work. And I'm so glad that the information that is macro tracking and being able to develop more self-awareness through not only tracking your food, but your digestion, your hunger cues, your energy levels, the quality of your sleep, how you feel in your workouts, how your weight is increasing when you're pushing yourself in the gym. Being able to have a system where you're tracking all of that information is life-changing. And that is the system that we have set up inside of the Fitness FYX. But again, where the system and that process meets the outcomes comes from the mindset work that's associated with it. And our clients who are focused on journaling, on taking walks a certain number of times a day, on spending time away from their phones, because it is this perfect recipe of a whole lot of different things, not just the X amount of protein or the X amount of carbs or the X amount of fat that's going to get you to where you want to go. So I want to support the person. The Fitness FYX desires to support the person who's like, I'm done starting over, because I don't even think about any of this as starting over. I think about it as a recalibration. I think about it as, hey, I went through a really busy season and I'm going to look at the summer to be able to pull back on certain things and then pull back on those external things and then support myself. And I'll give you a more tangible example that relates to me personally. Just this past week, for those of you who are on our email list, I wrote an email saying I had originally set this goal for myself back in January that I had sent 5 emails out per week. And as I started to take inventory of the fact that I was pulling some late nights and noticing what I was prioritizing getting done and what was kind of falling to the bottom of the to-do list, my email was one of them. And I really didn't want to pull back on this because I had made this promise to myself. And I also know that the information that I'm sharing in those emails is beneficial. But I also recognize that a lot of people, myself included, feel overloaded with information. And maybe it would be helpful to have one less email come into your inbox, but provide one full email once a week that's really juicy, that's really interesting, and that gives you actionable steps and tricks and tips and highlights these podcast episodes. And you get it all in one place and you can absorb all of that and then look forward to that again the next week. It's succinct, it's efficient, and we're all about that in all aspects of our lives. So why not keep up that same mentality with the scheduling of these emails? That is what drove it. But what also drove it was like, hey, I got to get some sleep. And I know that if one of my clients, if one of our Fitness FYX clients was coming to me with this scenario, I would literally ask them, is there anything that you're doing that maybe you've convinced yourself isn't a non-negotiable or is a non-negotiable and you must do it? But the reality is like, that was your choice. And there's some other adjustments that you can make to be able to improve, in this case, upon your sleep schedule, improve on how consistently you get to the gym, improve on how well you're hydrating and drinking water. It's the woman who's looking to have these conversations about problem solving that are also going to make us a little bit uncomfortable because they may uncover those beliefs that we are just like so set on holding on to, like our identities as people pleasers or needing the validation of being high achieving and checking those boxes. Like that's the kind of conversations that are going to then help heal the relationship with food, help keep the structure, and help you finally answer like, why do I keep saying that I know what I need to do, but then I'm not doing it? And that's where that lasting change happens, because anybody can teach you how to lose weight. But at the Fitness FYX, we're teaching you how to keep it off. So in terms of, I've obviously mentioned like who, in terms of the woman that we support, like what her schedule is like, but in terms of your knowledge base, here's what I want to make 150% clear. Up until 2024, the Fitness FYX was completely one-to-one coaching where we supplemented with a group coaching call, sometimes once a month, sometimes twice a month. So on average, 1 to 2 times a month. And at the beginning of 2025, I realized that as I started to see how many of our clients were just getting better and better at macros and starting to get into these deeper conversations, I realized that it was then allowing us to structure our program differently and wanting to support the woman who sees us as somebody in her corner for the long haul, not somebody she necessarily just works with for these short periods. So as a result of that, we now have this population of clients who are very knowledgeable in macronutrients and are more in the camp of, hey, I have big goals. I'm a busy person. I value the structure and support, and I value having somebody in my back pocket to be able to talk to as much as I need to, or maybe as little as I need to, but I value the fact that that coach is there and is available to me. And so that's allowed us to create a new program inside of our community that is less than $100 a month. And for those of you who have never worked with a nutrition coach before, I don't keep my pricing a secret, but typically the average nutrition coaching investment is over $300 a month, if not closer to 4 or 5, if you're working with a coach that is of the caliber inside of the Fitness FYX, because of the level of support that we provide, the frequency with which we communicate, the amount of information that we give you access to, and just being there to fully support you. And let's face it, when you put the investment on the line, you are going to get better results because you have more skin in the game. That's the reality. And I have loved supporting people in that exact format. And we've done that for the last 4 years. But again, the maturity factor comes in, and there's going to come a point where you don't need that level of checking in on a weekly basis. So insert our program, FYX Partners. Now, of course, I've obviously positioned it here and describing it as like the evolution of what you could almost call like a graduation program for a lot of our clients. But the cool part is the more I talk about nutrition from the lens of your nervous system and habit building and fat loss from all these other factors, it's now leading us to attract people to our community who are like, hey, I've worked with a coach on macros before. I understand that piece. I need to figure out the rest. I need to figure out why, if I know what my macro numbers should be, why I'm not hitting them. Insert the Fitness FYX. And then you get to have us in your back pocket to have those deep conversations when you need it. You get access to a once a month group coaching call with us. You still get access to DM us 24/6. So it's what you make of it. And that's why this is a self-leadership program, because the person who's going to be successful inside of that is somebody who's like, yeah, I know what I need to do, but I also know where my blind spots are. So that's when I'm going to lean into the support and reach out to my coaches when I need it. And in addition to that, we still do have our signature program, but we've also made adjustments to that in the beginning, it used to be a whole lot of let's check in every single week. And now we're at a point where we check in with our clients on a daily basis and have chats back and forth, but our more formal let's check in once a week has turned into every other. And the reason for that, again, goes back to the B word, busy, and knowing that, yeah, sometimes it might feel like you have yet another form to fill out, yet another email to read, yet another call to attend to. And that's why it's more so there for you to be able to have somebody to come talk to reflect on the last 2 weeks. Because when you're a busy person, the double-edged sword is you usually don't take the time to slow down. And because you don't take the time to slow down, you actually have resistance to this idea of checking in because it's forcing you to do that. So what's the perfect compromise? What's the perfect sweet spot? Doing that every other week, because it's still asking you to take a pause. It's asking you to self-reflect, because the self-reflection is 100 million trillion % necessary when it comes to you seeing results. Because if you keep going on autopilot, if you keep existing when you're just in that state of fight or flight all the time and reacting to the next thing, you are not going to be able to get out of your own way, because you are not even taking inventory to figure out what's stopping you. And that's why you get stuck in this conundrum of like, well, I know what I need to do, but it's not happening. If you actually just sat down for 5 minutes and sat with yourself, and I know you have time, and this I say with so much love, but let's use the podcast as an example. If you have time to listen to this podcast, that also means you have time to integrate the advice that we are providing on here. That also means that if you're not integrating it, why not come have the conversation about what it's like to work with us and really get a sense for our community and really get a sense for what that custom plan does look like for you and how it fits into your life. Because it goes back to how I started this whole thing, having access to that information, having access to a lot of information that's claiming you only need to do one thing. If it were as simple as that, by podcast episode 200 and something, you'd be in the best shape of your life. And you don't even have to listen to every single episode. It just means that you could listen to 10, you could listen to 15 of them, you could listen to 5 of them, you could follow me on Instagram, you could follow the Fitness FYX on Instagram, and that technically should be enough to get you to where you want to go. Mix that in with some of our other resources that we have, like our custom AI tool that we built just a couple of weeks ago and our clients have been playing around with, and I'm so excited for other people to now have access to as well. That lets you see what it's like to ask a question about how to prepare your dinner, how to think about your macros, how to go out to eat, and you're going to get a response that sounds just like the way we coach inside of our community, but therefore also makes it fun and also makes it humanized and also makes it something that you can look forward to, because you go ask it what you should have for dinner for the next 3 days. And not only does it give you ideas, but then offers to give you the grocery list too. Like everything is done for you in a logical order so that you reduce the decision fatigue, so that you can stop rubbing up against the story that you just don't have the time. And if you have the time to listen to these podcast episodes, you do have the time to take action on it too, because even listening to these episodes is a vote of you respecting yourself. It's a sign that you care about you, because I recognize there are other things that you can do with your time. And I hope that you value yourself enough to come back to these every single week. And that, of course, I'm delivering the value for you to want to continue every single week. But I want to push you to ask yourself, if you're a longtime listener of the show, you should be the version of yourself that you want to be. Or if you're not the version of yourself that you want to be, or maybe this is one of your first episodes that you're listening to and you want to become the version of yourself, the next step is to join the Fitness FYX. and come see what it's all about, and come see the version of you that you already know is there inside you, that is showing up as the best partner, that is showing up as the best employee, that is showing up as the woman who's juggling all of these things at once, but knows that she just has this capacity for more. And that more in this case is feeling her best, looking her best, having the confidence that comes with it to just continue to be the best version of you. So with that, of course, if you're interested in working with us, if you're interested in learning more about the exact breakdown, you can shoot me a DM at the Krysta Huber or over at the Fitness FYX, both of which are linked down in the show notes. Let's talk about it. Let's see if it's the right fit. But if anything I said in here resonated with you, or maybe even pissed you off a little bit because you're like, shit, that is me and I need to come to terms with that, send the message. You literally have nothing to lose. Unless, of course, you do want to lose a little body fat, because yes, that is going to come with it. But know that the way to guarantee that is for you to operate from a place of wanting to be your best self and knowing that the best version of you is the one that also has the most support. And that starts by asking for help to make it happen. And we want to be that team for you. So with that, from wherever you're listening from, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And I'll catch you guys next week.